All right, here's how I made some little capybara models for a board game that my brother designed. I wish I could say I designed the capybara model itself, but I did not. I copied, as you'll see, from a real-world model. So here I'm putting in the reference image. We have a nice side view there. And then this is the front view, I think. Get those lined up. Horizontally lined up. And it's been a while since I used Blender, so here I am clicking around wildly to find what I want. There we go. Finally found the opacity tool. And now we're ready to model. So for this model, I started with a cube. We'll extrude forward and back to give ourselves more polygons to work with. And then I just start tracing the contour using the cube, selecting edges and loops of edges as I go. There I added an edge loop around the center to give myself the ability to make it more round. And then I deleted half the model because I'll mirror the side that I'm manipulating. That'll make it a symmetrical model. And here I'm playing with the shading a little bit to get a better sense of the contour of the shape that I'm working with. I don't really know what setting I picked there, but it ended up being a green that matched the capybara, so I stuck with it. And in this phase, I just kind of rotate back and forth. I've been able to hold these models in my hands in real life, so I kind of know what the shape should feel like, and so I'm trying to replicate the feel of the shape in 3D, if that makes sense. My modeling process here is very intuitive. Now, one of my goals with this model was to keep it very low polygon and manage the topology so that we primarily have square polygons, or four-sided, not square, but four-sided polygons throughout the mesh. And then at the end, we'll smooth that mesh. But I like doing it this way because it's easier to make rough-grained changes to the shape of the mesh. It's easy to think about what your overall shape is and what it looks like and feels like. And then you have more flexibility at the end to subdivide that model at different levels of fidelity. So if you crank up that subdivision modifier all the way, you get a very smooth model with a lot of polygons, or you can leave the subdivision modifier in the middle or even completely turned off to have a low poly model. Something about that just feels clean to me. So here I wasn't really sure how I was going to transition from the head into the body. I think what I ended up doing was adding an extra edge there that I could then extrude down. We're trying to remember there how to slice the model. Oh yeah, here I pulled down the center points to trace the general shape of the lower part of the body, and then started adding a few extra edge loops. Now someone in the comments can tell me how to do this better, because it didn't feel very clean, but it all worked out in the end. So here it's important to get that sort of pinch of the contour from the head into the lower body. I really like how the head sort of feels like a rounded cylinder of clay that's sort of flopped onto the fat little body. But yeah, having the polygon sort of pinched in there is really important to the contour of this model. So once I felt like that was good, I added some more edge loops to start fattening out the body a little bit. And I think here, yeah, I was starting to think about, okay, how am I going to get the rounded feet and little stubby legs to stick out? And again, we also want to sort of pinch in the corners and the deeper parts, between the two legs and things like that. So I added a few edges to accomplish that. There I added another edge. So I guess I moved on from the lower body for a minute and then went back up to the ear. So I added an edge there to extrude an ear out of the head. And then use the inset tool to bring it in and push those faces back into the ear. And here I'm using, I forget what it's called, but it's like the magnet tool to grab the face, and you can see I move the whole ear all at once. Yeah, I don't remember the name of that tool, but it lets you sort of grab a face or a vertice or an edge, and then, it's the proportional editing tool, and then it lets you sort of squish the model and surrounding tools. So it feels more like you're kind of sculpting. And there I inset and sort of push the ear back in, and I'm testing out the subdivision modifier to see how my contours are coming through when I apply subdivision. When you apply subdivision, the whole model shrinks a little bit from what you see in the low poly version. So you sometimes have to exaggerate the features more than you'd think in the low poly version to get the subdivided surface looking the way that you want it to. And here again, I'm playing with edges to start drawing the leg. There I've kind of created the leg and then the front leg and the back leg, or at least the gap between them here, now has faces that correspond to it. And I was still unsure of how to do this, and finally I went for it and just said, okay, I'm going to extrude several faces all together, and I like the way it turned out. You can see right away that leg is now popping out. Did the same for the front leg. And at this point, we're pretty close to done. So from this point forward, it was really just about tweaking the shapes, getting that topology just right. So again, the goal with clean topology, at least as I understand it, someone's going to tell me I'm wrong or missing some important details, is that I try to focus mostly on having quads as the polygons, but at certain edges, I'll allow myself triangles or other n-gon shapes, but I try to stick as much as possible just to four-sided polygons. And the reason for that, I think, is because they smooth out better, and then I think they're easier to paint. In this particular case, I didn't paint the model, but if I were to UV unwrap the polygons of the model and then paint on it, I think you get less pinching from those types of polygons. I think it also looks really nice, even in the low poly mode. So here I'm starting to think of how I'd model the chest and then the space between the two front legs. So I'm adding more edges to accommodate that. Another edge to the lower part of the hind leg there to give it more contour and fatten it up a bit. And then here I have the subdivision modifier applied, and then I'm manipulating the low poly version That way I can see how things are going. There I had to, the vertices were not perfectly aligned with the center line, so I had to force them to be all in a line on the x-axis. And I think soon I'll apply the mirror modifier. And then I think here I saw some opportunities to get rid of a couple triangles and smooth out the topology a little bit. Back to the front, I'm sort of molding the chest and pushing in the space between the two front legs. And there I've applied the mirror modifier, and we can see the capybara has come together. And every once in a while I'll flip back over to the reference image in my files and have a closer look at, sort of how for example, how the feet look from the bottom here, what the contour of the space, the divot between the feet looks like. Here I'm checking it out in low res, and you can see, or not low res, but in subdivision, and you could see that there was a ridge down the front, and that's because I'm applying the subdivision modifier before the mirror modifier. Now the mirror modifier has a merge property that you can see that's checked, and it will merge vertices that are within a certain distance of each other. So you want to apply the mirror modifier first and then subdivide afterwards, and it gets rid of that crease that appears. So here I added some more edge loops to create the eye, and then sort of use the extrusion tool to push it in. Very simple. And then the slice tool to create more vertices to work with. And here I'm getting the shape of the eye just right, sort of a teardrop, a long teardrop. And I like to be very micro when I model. There's probably easier ways to do some of these things, or automated ways. But I personally like the feel of manipulating each little vertex and edge. Again, for me, it's like sculpting. And it really is largely by feel. I just kind of, I almost can feel the shape in my mind as I, pan back and forth. You'll see I often rotate the object back and forth to kind of get, it's not a 3D screen, it's a flat screen. So that gives me a sense of sort of the parallax and the shape of the model. And then from there, I just kind of decide what to push and pull. So here I drew a new edge loop to kind of create the divot for the snout, and then selected some faces and pushed them in like that. And then I had to get rid of some edges that kind of created this seam down the front. And then I wanted to get the shape of the snout just right by comparing it to the image of the model. And the capybara almost has a little bit of a smile. I wanted to get that, upturned mouth going on there. And I think that's the modeling done. Somewhere in here I figure out that I need to put the mirror modifier first. Some minor tweaks. I guess first I moved on to the material. So I started out by trying to recreate the green, semi-transparent, rough material of the original Capybara model. And I did that using the principled BSDF shader. I don't remember all the things that I set in here. You can maybe pause the video to see the settings. And you can see the current render engine is set to Eevee. Eevee can do sort of a glassy like texture, but it can't really do glass quite like the Cycles renderer can. So to get the glass effect, you really have to use the Cycles renderer, but it's a lot slower because it's all ray traced, of course. And in the original model, the snout has sort of a dark brown paint on the front. I decided not to add that in. I couldn't quite get it looking the way I liked it. I think the model ended up looking pretty great anyway. So there I set the merge distance on the mirror, but I still haven't figured out that I need to put mirror first. I think I figure it out in a moment. Started lighting the scene. And getting the capybara in frame. There we go. I put the mirror modifier first, changed the merge distance to 0.1 meters, and the scene is gone. That's me moving the camera around because I'm so happy. And place the capybara on the floor and make a floor. And at some point here, I went out to the internet and grabbed a granite texture because there was a granite countertop in the picture that my brother sent me. Set up some classic 3-point lighting. I gave it a bit of a mood with a blue and red light there. I always like this. I like the way the different lights cast shadows. I think I made the white, yellowish light, kind of like the sun. That's the brightest light, and then the other lights are sort of as bright as they need to be to light up the different sides of the capybara and really pull the contours out. So here I'm back to the material, and I think I may have briefly switched to the Cycles renderer there to start previewing the glass texture. And it's not quite as transparent as I'd like yet, so I think I keep working with that. Here's where I grabbed the granite counter. There it is. And then here I'm doing some test renders to get the green color close to the original source. And here I finally select the glass BSDF shader. And I think this is the final shader that I went with. Let's see. So not the principled BSDF, but the glass BSDF. And under volume, I've selected translucent BSDF with a similar color to the base color. And then it's just a matter of getting the transparency just right and setting the roughness. And that looks pretty much like the original at that point. And then I thought, this guy needs some friends. In the board game, there are multiple colors of capybara, so I decided to create one of each color. And that was super easy. I just duplicated my material. I don't think I changed any properties except for the base color. And then duplicated the capybara, of course, too. There you go. There's the final render. Or close to it. Okay, yeah, I wanted those two on the side to be kissing a little bit and tighten up the group. There's the final render. So I let that run for a while, and then this is what came out. So yeah, I hope you found that interesting. It was a lot of fun to model, and see you next time.